Hey there, pre-calc students. We're going to continue with multiple angles and sum to product. So we're going to take product to sum formulas here, sum to product. That's going to be our main focus. So we're going to rewrite this product, this is multiplication, as a sum or a difference. Okay, so we have a cosine times a sine. So I go into my formulas and I'm looking at product to sum. So I have a cosine times a sine or a sine times a cosine. Which one do I have? It looks like I have a cosine times a sine, correct? Cosine times a sine. So that's the formula I need to use, cosine times a sine. So this is our formula that we want to use. Let's see if I can make this work. So that's the formula we want to use here. Okay, so knowing that this is U and this is V, we need to plug in our info here. So we're going to have 1/2 times the sine of 5x plus 4x minus the sine of 5x minus 4x. All right. So now we just need to go through and simplify. We have a 1/2 times the sine of 9x. I can drop the parentheses if I want, or I can leave them there. That's up to me. And then I got the sine of x. All right. And so we can distribute our 1/2 if we like. Typically, we want to do that when we're simplifying. There may be an exception to that. So it's 1/2 the sine of 9x minus 1/2 the sine of x. There you go. So let's take a look at the next one. We have a sum to product formula here. So now we have a sum and we need to change it to a product. We're trying to find the exact value of this. So again, I could type it in my calculator, but that's not going to give me the exact value. That'll give me a value of it. So we need to check out our formula sheet. We need a sum of cosine plus cosine to a product. So sum to product, we have cosine plus a cosine. So there's our formula that we would like to use. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is our formula that we want to use here. All right. So we're going to know that this is x. Here's x. And then there's your y, which you're going to use over here. So what we're going to find is 2 cosine of 195 plus 105. And that's all divided by 2. You can put that in parentheses. And then you have the cosine of 195 minus 105. And you're going to divide that by 2. So we're going to leave 2 times the cosine. So 195 plus 105 is 300. Divided by 2 is 150. And then we have the cosine of 195 minus 105 is 90. Divided by 2 is 45 degrees. Okay. So now we just have to think of our unit circle. Where does the cosine, what is the cosine of 150? Okay. So 150 is really what, 5 pi over 6? If you want to think of it that way. If you're more of a radian person, you could convert them to radians and then think about it. And this is pi over 4 here. Okay, cosine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. And then the cosine of 5 pi over 6 is the square root of 3 over 2. It's in the second quadrant, so we do have a negative. All right. So now it's just time to multiply it out. So these 2's can cancel. All right. And then you're going to have a negative square root of 6 over 2. And that's your exact answer. So let's take a look at the next one. So we're trying to find solutions here. So we're solving an equation. All right. So we have an issue here with solving. We can't just move this over here. We can't factor. That's not something because they're not the same period. There's a B here that they have different periods. But this is a sum If we could turn it into a product, then we could probably solve that. So we have a sine plus another sine. So let's take a look at our formula sheet. Sine plus a sine from our sum to product. So we want to use this formula right here. Okay. So let's take a look. And so we're going to have 2, remember we're set equal to 0 here. So we're going to have 2 sine of 5x plus 3x, and that's all divided by 2. Then we're going to have the cosine of 5x minus 3x, and that's all divided by 2. Again, you could put parentheses there, but as long as you know that this is connected to that and there's still multiplication in between, you're okay. So I'm going to have 2 sine of, this is 8x divided by 2. So that's 4x. And then don't forget that that equals 0. And then here, 5x minus 3x is 2x divided by 2 is just x. And that still equals 0. So what you can do, you can divide everything by 2 to get rid of the 2 out front. That doesn't change this 4, but it does at least allow me to focus on these 2 things. So now really it becomes 2 separate questions. We're going to set each thing equal to 0. So we're going to take the sine of 4x, say that that equals 0. And we're going to take the cosine of x and see where that equals 0. So this one's going to be a little easier to solve because the period isn't changed. So here we're going to have pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. All right. And then we can add 2 pi into both of those because I think we want all the answers. There's no interval that we're finding. All right. So then where does the sine of 4x equal 0? Well, we really need to find the pretend question, if you will. Where does the sine equal 0? And where does the sine equal 0? Normally it's at 0 in pi, and then also you can consider it 2 pi, even though that kind of already gets counted as 0. But then it's 4x. So really 4x has to equal all of these. So if I'm solving these, 0 is still an answer. And then pi over 4. And then if you divide this by 4, you get pi over 2. And then it's going to reoccur. So if I found the next one after, if I listed some more, the next place that it happens is 3 pi. And then it also happens at 4 pi. If you divide this one by 4, you get 3 pi over 4. And then you divide the next one by 4, you get pi. Notice what's reoccurring here is that it's every 4th pi. And it's going to keep going. Okay. So really my answers, these 2 are actually going to get counted over here, right? Pi over 2, pi over 2. So this one really isn't crucial to getting the correct answer. So all my solutions are really going to be pi over 4 plus pi over 4n. Or you could write it as 0 plus pi over 4n. Or you could just write it as pi over 4n, and depending on what number you get. So any one of these would count towards having the correct answer. I'm going to box all of them in. So you could have any of those and it would count. And again, these 2 are getting counted in here. I don't necessarily have to write them separately. You won't know that ahead of time. And I solved this one first because it was easier to solve. Okay. So that's how we go through and solve. Using our formula, really the new part is just the first step or 2. And then thereafter, this is really not new in solving. We could have solved this before. It's the first 2 steps that are new for this. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next one. So we need to verify the identity. Okay, so we have a sine plus a sine over a cosine plus a cosine. And we need to make that equal tangent. So what are we going to do? So when I look at the top, a sine plus a sine, that's a formula. That's an identity. So that's a sum. We want to probably turn that into a product. So sine plus a sine is the formula we were just using. Okay, so let me put that on our page instead of trying to flip back and forth. We probably want to use that formula first. And then on the bottom, I have a cosine plus a cosine. So let's go back to our formula sheet. Where's cosine plus a cosine? That's this formula. So let's put that on our notes as well. So that's going to be the second formula that we really want to use. So again, we're trying to make it equal tangent of 2t, which we have an idea of where we want to get to, but I want to try to work with this top, okay? And then work with the bottom and then see what I can do from there. So the top, sine plus a sine, is going to equal 2. So the top is going to be 2 sine of t plus 3t over 2. And then the cosine of t minus 3t. And that's over 2. And then on the bottom, remember, this is all equal to the tangent of 2t. Then on the bottom, I got to do this formula. So I'm going to have 2 cosine of t plus 3t over 2. Then I'm going to have the cosine of t minus 3t over 2. And so now I need to simplify. So 2 sine of 4t over 2 is 2t. And then this is the cosine of negative 2t. That's okay. It's not going to be that big of an issue necessarily, that it's a negative. It possibly could be another issue that we have to deal with, but we'll work with that when it happens. So we still equal the tangent of 2t. So this is going to be 2 cosine. This is 4t divided by 2, 2t. And then the cosine of negative 2t over 2. Oh, sorry, that is negative 2t. I messed something up, didn't I? This should just be negative t, shouldn't it? Yeah, oops. Didn't mean to erase all that stuff. Sorry, made a little mistake. We can fix that. I'm glad I caught it before I got too far along. T minus 3t is negative 2t divided by 2 is negative t. There we go. Same thing here. T minus 3t, negative 2t divided by 2 is negative t. All right. So now we want to try to look and see what we can do here on the top and the bottom. So now let's take a look at what we have from top to bottom here. This is multiplication, so anything that's the same can cancel. So we're going to cancel the 2's. And these are the exact same thing. We can cancel those. So really all I have is the sine of 2t over the cosine of 2t. And from the quotient identity, I think we're done. This is just the tangent of 2t. So we've now verified our identity. All right. So hopefully using multiple angles made sense. All right. There's a time and a place for those. There's a lot of formulas. You're not going to memorize them. You just have to be able to use them in the right situation. Let me know if you have any questions.